Very warm welcome to today's webinar, the Experiential Learning in association with AIMA New Delhi. And you all know that Firebird International B-School, Coimbatore in South India is experimenting itself with a new pedagogy itself. So experiential learning is one of the primary aspect of Firebird International B-School. And let me give a brief idea what is a Firebird. And Firebird Business School is supported by an industrial house, Banari Aman Group, Avan Siva Texan, and a group of industrial houses are behind us, and we are highly blessed with their financial support and knowledge support and technical support. And our pedagogy is quite different from other business schools. We are autonomous business school offering PGDM, and we have a curriculum which is 70% industry oriented, industry linked. And all our students study morning 8:20 to 1 o'clock only in the theoretical classes. Afternoon, each student is being picked by the industry, and they are called interns. So this is the first business school which provides 2 years internship, half-day internship, and each student works as an employee of a different organization on different verticals. When we talk about experiential learning, we have a virtual experiential learning, we have a physical experiential learning. So Firebird has the blessing of the industrial support to put every student for a real-time exposure to the industry on different verticals. Now, when it comes to AIMA, AIMA is one of the finest association, the best in the country, to predominantly to develop the assets of management literature and develop the leading professors and connecting all the institutions across the country, across the globe in developing the pedagogy and the curriculum and training the AIMA certified teachers as well as membership for the AIMA permanent member for the institution. AIMA happened to be a guiding philosophy in the area of management education. And today we have one of the topmost senior academician who has got academic credential as well as industry credential both at home and abroad. Dr. Raj Agrawal is today's our chief guest. Sir, you're warm welcome to today's webinar. And we have Mr. Ravi Jangra, who is a strategist and who is also an academician, also represent industry. And he had several portfolios in the industry and is an alumnus of IIM Lucknow. And we have Amy Menon, and a versatile researcher from US, and also a very hardcore accreditation officer based in India, representing AACSB. She takes all the school into a bucket, and she sees that she proves that we stand up to the international accreditation standard. And you're welcome, madam. And we have very extended and senior person from Mantis, Dr. Vinay Damlezi, and he is a strong researcher, he is a leading and very senior academician in the country, and also very high profile from the industry also. And a very good friend of mine, Dr. Prasad. Dr. Prasada Rao was in Geetham University with a high credential in academics, a lot of research, a lot of institutional building development. He used to run in Geetham University a center altogether. And since the world is small, so he's now got into NCR region and working for in the TLC in Sharda University. So all of you are welcome, and it's wonderful Fiber to be one of the finest partner for the AIMA. And let me give a brief introduction. The brainchild of Firebird, Dr. Sundar Raman, who is the founder and who is our trustee, managing director for Siva Texan, and he happened to be a versatile man in India, abroad, a Cambridge graduate, Cambridge MBA, and also he runs all the industries, a 2,000 crore group. This is what Siva Texan and Banari Aman, we are all our blessed student and staff with their support. Sir, warmly I welcome for the chief guest address now, Dr. Raj Agrawal. Sir, are you able to hear me? Dr. Raj Agrawal? He's traveling, so I think he will reconnect in few seconds. So before he comes, Raviji, I would like to have a few minutes to explain AIMA role in the business simulation. You can just give an introduction so that he will get connected with us.
Sure, sir. Thank you, Dr. Rao. and other dignitaries, although I never got a chance personally to meet Mr. Vinod Damlekar, but I heard a lot of his name. So he's indirectly one of my mentor also in a simulation, because simulation activities which I heard about, the kind of knowledge transfer I got in AIMA is started by Mr. Vinod Damlekar a long back, and my colleague, Mr. S.C. Tyagi, Mr. D.K. Gupta, Mr. Dr. Dhillo, they used to work with. I just heard about this information on those things. So I think he can tell more about simulation, how AIMA started rather than me, because I will be telling the information which was passed on to me. But he's the, I think, which I got to know, he's the brain behind this development on simulation Chanakya, which we started long back. And once I'll go through my presentation. So the half of the presentation will be the story of Mr. Damlekar's association with the business simulation, which we started a paper-based, then computer-based, then we got in the internet-based, and then business lab. So it's my pleasure to meet Mr. Damlekar here. Definitely, I love to meet you in person sometime. So in 2016, when I took charge of the business simulation department, so the challenge was given to me was like how we can associate more and more institutions, because the kind of technology is changing day by day. The kind of resource requirement was there for the faculties, because Mr. Damlekar and Mr. Professor Rao would be agree with me that the challenge which we used to have face that they want best of the faculties, which we had Mr. Damlekar, Mr. Tyagi, Mr. Gupta, so many people. But the problem was the academic calendar for us, because every session was used to start at the month of September, August and September. And they used to do the induction batches. They used to do they need to do a lot of virtual conferences right now. It is happening. Earlier, it used to be in a physical format. And a lot of academic process they need to do, some like they call it sessional exams, internal exams, then their final exams, their local festivals and activities. Like tomorrow we have election in North India. Professor Rao and I will be going for the voting tomorrow. So there was a lot of challenge for them, and they need to follow all the guidelines of UGC and AICTE, and they used to do these extra activities also outside of our academic calendar. So the challenge was us that they used to invite us for a physical workshop, and we used to face a challenge always how to deliver that, because we have a limitation of resources, best of the faculties, and every college has their own calendar, and then the limitation of the days, because although we say that semester is 6 months, but all the academicians know how much 6 months you get in a semester called as a semester. You will not get more than, I think, 90 days to get the entire education. So to face those challenges, when my management asked me, my council asked me how to incorporate on that, so we thought about an idea. Why not to get association with the institution on rather than we go, because we are getting best of the faculties in the institution. They are going a lot of their academic practices. They are going a lot of their industrial experiences, and a lot of accreditation process. They are going on FDPs, overseas education. So these are the best people, and they are like they are doing their education and masters and doctors and DLEDs and all these things. They have all the expertise in their subjects. Only the challenge for them to get the simulation. And Chanakya is I took the liberty here to with the help of Mr. Vinod, we launched this business simulation concept in India long back. So again, I'm reiterating this thing. This is a concept brought by Mr. Vinod and other people in India and the simulation and education system. And we started with a competition, national management games, then student management games, then in-house workshop for the corporates, then in-house workshop for the institution also. So the challenge which we took that, okay, let's get association with the institution. We trained and certified the faculties, and we came up with the ecosystem for management education. So the management education should be not limited to us only. The management education delivery through simulation should be in the hand of the institution. So Firebird is the first institution in India who got the sign up in 2019. I still remember we launched on 27th of March 2018.
Thank you.
Although I still remember in April 2017, I had a discussion with the director, that time of the director of Firebird about the business lab. I told him that we are coming with the business lab concept, and he said that okay, we would like to be the first, and he asked me to meet the management trustee of Firebird, Dr. Ram. And when I had a discussion within another platform of started by Mr. Vinod Amlegar, that the student management games finale hosted by Firebird, and I had a discussion with Dr. Ram, and he immediately said that yes, we want to be the first. And he said that you send the agreement, we will sign up. Although we done this program in the January, February, we have to finalize those things. And 27th of March 2018, the first business lab was launched in India at Firebird Institute of Research and Management Education. So congratulations to all of you on this.
Thank you.
So that was the idea, where it was an ecosystem for management education, where we wanted to integrate the student, faculties, as well as management as the part of the access of this business lab. It should not be limited to for me as a facilitator, or just to one part, that is a classroom session or workshop session to the student. So it is beyond that simulation activities. So I will say business lab and us, simulation is the base, but it is more than a simulation. So over to you, Dr. Rao, because I think we want to go in a formal way in that.
No, if Raj Sahab is not able to get connected, I would like you to start the presentation, so that whenever he joins us, because he's traveling, the sickness may not be appropriate for him. So,
sure, sir.
Yes.
So we call it, I'll take the thanks for your permission on this, sir. So when we talk about experiential learning as a new teaching pedagogy for management education, so that's what the topic I thought about today when we talk about simulation activities, because simulation is one tool. The kind of faculties we had, the interaction we had, there is a lot of faculties who is using their own tools, using their own Excel games, which they started long back. So there is a lot of things which we talk about experiential learning. And part of my career, I work with a lot of engineering programs like Microsoft engineering tools, Autodesk engineering tools, Siemens engineering tools. There is a lot of tools which we are working on. I would take this platform to say thanks to Professor S.S Rao also, because I visited Sharda University many times, and there is a lot of lab they have made for engineering students. So that is for experiential learning. And experiential learning, when we talk about experiential learning, it is quite simple. That is learning by doing. It is not a theory, because theory, yes, these days after 2001, when there is a lot of YouTube and Google is there, everything is available on the system, on the fingertips. The idea was to give them the experiential learning. There is a lot of session going on experiential learning. There is a lot of debate going on experiential learning. When we talk about the schools, it starts from the basic nursery class. When we talk about the motor skill development, that is again experiential learning. So if somebody says that experiential learning is new, no, it is not a new concept. It is the only concept, learning by doing from the very scratch level of our life. So it is a developing personal understanding and knowledge and skills, their own thought process. Like, for example, if you ask a child to identify red color, he may not identify. But if you ask him to identify an apple which is red, he can identify. So that is the experiential learning from them. So that's what it started from there. So the idea of experiential learning is a long started way back, but in a different aspect of our life and different aspect of our education learning, it is very different. And we have a digital thought process of experiential learning is a game based. So it is a game also, which I given as just example. If you ask a kid to get the red apple or green apple out of this the fruit basket, he will easily get on that. But the major challenge is gameful, which is design, which is using the satisfying properties of the games. Like, for example, as I'm again reiterating, so identifying a green apple is to arrange their motor skill on the color identification. So that is a property of that game, where they were talking about eyesight or identification of the product. If we ask them to identify a round object, so he may pick orange rather than apple. He may not choose banana, because that is the identification of how to work on the face of the product. And that's what we are about. That is a game based. We can talk about incentives and a lot of other things. It is a praise and all these things when we are talking about. And when we talk about experiential learning, what we thought about gamification is a one concept, then serious game, and then we are talking about simulations. This is a learning when we're talking about for a management students. And gamification, as I was just mentioning, it is a general concept where to make it interesting. Like, for example, when we talk about management programs, and when we talk about team building or communication learning. So we just give example since childhood, Chinese whisper game. If I'll say something in the ear of Mr. Dr.P. Shrinivas Rao in a very whispering language, and what he's transferring to Professor S.S Rao, what he's transferring. So this is a Chinese whisper. But this Chinese whisper game is not just a game. It is a make to understand about the problem of the communication. So it is a gamification. So there is a lot of concept which we talk about gamification. Any learning which can be turned up in a gamification, that is a thought process where you are learning by doing on those kind of things. So if we talk about gamification as a leaderboard points, even in the childhood we play Monopoly, where a business has started long back. Business Monopoly is all about understanding business, how to bargain, how to feel the cash in hand, what kind of cash you are getting in your hand, and what you are doing on those things. And there is a lot of books on gamification, why gamification is required. So there is a verb which I mentioned on the screen also. Play is often identified the terms of individual and group imaginative activity that promotes discovery and learning, and promotes the physical psychologist by Daniel Goleman, which called social and emotional intelligence also. Because when we talk about social and emotional intelligence, when we talk about a game, if how I'm dealing with my people, how I'm dealing with my peers, juniors, seniors, if I want to negotiate, if I want to convince, there is a lot of things which we need to understand. Even we see in the lot of gamification thought process, how it is a learning, like for example, cricket. And everybody is a fan of cricket, but cricket is called as a game of gentlemen. Why? Because gentlemen, how they behave, how they treat to the team members, how they treat their opposition, that is again a way of learning. And since childhood, and when we used to got taught our physical education, first thing was team meetings, team bonding. That is what we talk about on the gamification thought process. Serious game, when we talk about, is a concept which came later on in 1970s when we talk about. So serious game was identified a lot of required design output-based learning. So like, for example, if I want to make understand of financial balance sheet kind of thing. So if I make a Excel sheet and where I will give you some data, and if I say that what is the profit of the company and how you can learn on those things on Excel sheet, and I made it on a gamification base, that is particular serious game. It is not on a overall object of the learning. It is one particular object of the learning when we are talking about. So that is the way it works in a gamification elements. If the mission and the quest is very categorically working on that. So for example, if you talk about treasure hunt is all about critical thinking, how to identify the objects. Treasure hunt is also a serious game. It's not a fun-based game only. It is not limited to fun-based game, I will say moreover, because in a treasure hunting, you need to see the data, you need to see the objects, you need to understand the hidden agendas or hidden notions. Then you need to go on the next step. So that's why we call it serious games, is one particular thing which is particular target on specified learning objectives. So there is a learning objective is clear, then we talk about serious games. And simulation, as we started learning by doing. So there is a Japanese proverb, tell me, I forget, show me, I remember, involve me, I understand. And that's the way we are getting taught by throughout our academic. We get a lot of lecture from the students, and that is the pain for all the faculties, fellow faculties. We give them the best of the knowledge. Student listen from 1 year and pass out from the next year. But if we ask them to see the pictures, they are able to learn. They are able to learn what we have shown to them. And that's why we always say that whenever you want to remember something, associate that with the one picture or some image in your mind so that you can relate on that. So that is what we always on this. So if I will say somebody, if Dr. P. Srinivas want to introduce me to somebody, that, okay, we have Mr. Ravi or Professor S.S Rao, student may not recall in later on, but if he said that there is a one guy who was in a suit and blue tie, who was sitting very gently, they may remember, okay, yes, there was one guy, and who is one with the guy with the black beard and black shirt with the background. So that is Shugis. And if I'll ask few questions from any student, like Kishore just raised his hand, I will involve him later on. But anyway, everybody will be remember that, okay, I had an interaction with the Kishore. So I will also remember the name of the Kishore now because he has got involved in this communication. So that's what we are going to do. That is the simulation which we are talking about. So it is a method where we required. Why simulation is required? Because there is a lot of understanding which we may not understand. And my fellow friends from the academic industry, they will be agree. Yes, we do a lot of formulas. We do use a lot of calculation method, but business is not science. Business is beyond science. I may be on the first position of the market, but maybe not of my right decision. Maybe it can be a chance that I'm on the first position because of the wrong decision of my competitor. So Mr. Vinod Damlekar has made a very good program, Chanakya, which we use. And many times it happens, my competitor made a very good mistake for me. I think good mistake. Why? They made a lot of marketing activities. They do a lot of investment in marketing. People get interested in a business, that kind of thought. And people get this kind of interest. Okay, yes, we need to buy this product. But unfortunately, they haven't planned properly the inventory. They don't have the stock. I'm not doing any marketing. I'm just a nearby competitor to him and one of the competitor company. And I have full of the inventory. So they will buy the product. Doesn't matter I'm selling in the lower quality, higher price or something like that. I will get the profit. So I will get the profit margin. I will get the market share, but not because of my right decision, just my ordinary decision and not investment, but the wrong decision of my competitor. So these kind of things which we get a lot of learning where there is a lot of interaction of other department is required, a lot of real-time scenarios, and a lot of consequences are there for outside causal factor, we call it. I'm just giving an example. I was working with one of the FMCG company which used to make sharbat in the month of June, and they planned on a little data which is on the last 3 and 4 years data, and they were discussing, and one of the key member of the business forecasting team came and said that no, we should not plan higher inventory this time in the month of June. Rather than we should make it till the May only, June onwards, we should reduce our inventory. Nobody was agree. And then he put some data to us that in the June month, the monsoon is coming 1 month advance. So people will not entertain sharbat, rather than they will be entertaining chai and pakoda in India. So your market demand will go reduce and the inventory will be lying up. The shelf life of the product is not too high. So we cannot wait for another 6 months or 12 months to get that reduced. So ultimately we are piling up with a lot of debt and all these things. So there is a lot of causal factor which we need to understand. So when we are teaching you marketing, when we are teaching the finance, when we are teaching the HR, it is not limited to that particular department. You need to see the other department also. You cannot work in the silos. So to make them learn all those things, simulation is required in this management industry very much. And in any other department, if you talk about aeroplane industry or aviation industry, first thing to the trained pilot or student is given a simulator. They need to sit in the hardware box. They need to run that pilot simulator so that they cannot directly go to the cargo and make some kind of mistakes, because simple cargo will cost you 25 crore rupees bare minimum. Even a two-seater chopper, that will cost you 15 crore to 25 crore rupees. So it will be a very great loss. And it is not loss for the only property, it is a loss for the life. It can be a loss for the life also. And same thing is simulation business. I cannot give you 10 crore rupees to invest just to market and not getting any result from you. So there are the challenge which you need to understand. And I already covered like how simulation works. It gives you the entire virtual environment in real-time scenarios. So same like, I'll give you the basic example of these as a student. Students play PUBG. A lot of PUBG they are playing. PUBG was meant to make you understand about the collaboration, not to shoot the people. Exactly. Understand to the hidden factors from where you can get the challenges and troubles. So if somebody said that PUBG is a game where you will learn shooting, no, you cannot learn shooting from that. But yes, you can learn collaboration from PUBG without even seeing the people. And that is the new time and the new era of the market. Because right now I'm sitting in Delhi, I'm sitting in Greater Noida West. If I am not wrong, Professor S.S Rao is sitting in Greater Noida East. Professor Shrinivas Rao is sitting in Coimbatore. My colleague Dr. Raj Agrawal is on the highway on the Lucknow road. So there is a lot of collaboration is going on, and that is what we as simulation working, you need to understand the collaboration, and that is how it works. Real time, we are in a real time, but right now we call it virtual meetings. Are we not real? Or I am not a live person, or Mr. Professor Rao is not a live person? Yes, they are real time, and you are having the real time learning, but in a virtual environment. That's what we is all given on that. So I'll just give you a brief about like what kind of simulation is there. And as I mentioned, like we started simulation in 1970s. Professor Damlekar was the one of the anchor, and that time we started with the written, means paper-based simulation. And then we have given them the audio, video, visuals on a computer. There is a lot of things going on. Then obviously based on the technology, we came on the live simulated situation, which where we give them the environment. We change the environment also. I still remember one of the story I got to know that there was a one competition which we were running, and a lot of teams they were playing every year, like the finalist 10 teams, and out of 10 teams 8 teams were playing from last so many year of experience. So I forgot the name of the faculty. I think it's Mr. Tamlekar or Mr. Gupta along with them. They controlled the live situation there, and they reduced the available currency in the market. So the entire market got changed, and the winner was totally different. So somebody was thinking that, okay, I have a 15 year of experience in the market or experience in the game, I will again win. No, that is not the situation. And we all witnessed this thing in after March 2020, when we got a COVID situation. There was a lot of demand, but there was not a supply. So that kind of situation can happen, how to work on those things. Simulation lab is a concept where we talk about a lot of integration of management education, where we are talking about learning by simulation lab is by enterprise learning, entrepreneurship learning, and self-paced practices also, which we are talking about. So I will not grieve on the brief of the written simulation, audio, visual, what we are talking about. This is all those things. So experiential learning, we say that I also use this line, future of education. It will remain always a future of education. It will change, just the experience will get changed. Like as I mentioned, from the childhood, we are getting taught on the experiential learning. So we started with a paper-based simulation because that time computer was not there. After 85, the digital era came. We came on a computer-based learning. Initially, we were scared of computers because of the loss of the job, but now it increased so many jobs. So we came on a computer-based. In 1996, 81, when internet launched, but that was not the penetration was not in market. But in 1999, post 1999, when internet was available everywhere, we used to use BSNL. We started with the internet-based learning, and now there is a no limit of the technology. In the future, why we are talking about the future of education, experiential learning, we are coming with the AR and VR also. And believe me, a lot of companies are asking us about the same management learnings through AR and VR, where you can feel in the market. So like, for example, my fellow friends will be very much agree on this. There is a lot of requirement coming for corporates to train their staff for negotiation. And when we give them the like kind of, that's what I'm talking about, the differentiation. When we talk about the serious game, maybe me and Professor Rao is in the same session and we are negotiating with each other to make things learn. But as Mr. Professor Rao is very senior to me, I may not understand his learning, or maybe he's very, he has a very long vision, so he can negotiate me in a different manner. So I may lose the negotiation also. And we all see this kind of learning in this Shark Tank also these days. There is a lot of negotiation goes on. How so? People are asking us to how to make them learn in a experiential based learning. So rather than talking about a negotiation with a person who you know, let's go to the unknown person who is not your friend. And then you need to negotiate. You cannot make him annoyed, but still you need to negotiate and you need to do the business. So that's why there is always a future of education, as will remain education learning, as I mentioned, but the experiential level will always get changed. And teaching and the pedagogy and management education, it is required because theory is getting changes every day. Disruption is going in the market. We will keep changing the syllabus. We'll get a lot of all the institution, they are getting best of the speaker in their institution to discuss and interact with you guys. But how to get them, make them learn, and you can learn only by doing. So even if we are talking about a startup, you are doing a lot of things. That is a simulation based learning where you are doing many things, you are experiential those things, how it is going to involve. So there is a lot of things which we need to understand on simulation. Even like, for example, advertisement we are making, how it is going to impact. These days we are evaluating each and every advertisement, how the response will be coming, how the hits will be coming. Even you go to the digital marketing or traditional marketing, everything would be requiring. And that's why simulation is always a requirement of our teaching. And I think institution knows this thing very well. That's why Firebird is one of the institute who started the simulation lab in the very first year of our launch on those things. It is about the business lab only, but before that also they used to host my competition student management games, and they used to launch the workshop for their own students. The idea was to make it a regular practice for the students. That is the idea when we are talking about. So the static business simulation will be help you to understand the entire gamut of your company, from a marketing, from a HR, from operations, from a sales and strategy and finance. Because we used to face one challenge I used to face when I used to go to the college pre-COVID, and I'm just giving you two examples. So one thing, HR people, when I used to go to the HR student, and all my fellow friends will be agree on that, HR student always used to say that I'm a very good in I'm good in public relation. I made very good relation with the team members, so I should be in HR. I used to ask, if you are good in a PR, why you are not going in corporate communication? Why only in HR? There is always a challenge. Okay. Second thing I used to ask, if you want to go in HR, can you see yourself as a CEO? And they used to say that no. How a HR person can be a CEO? I want to give you information, my friend. A lot of CEOs of the organization have a background of HR. I'm just giving an example of one of the private organizations, that is Infosys. Once a time, the CEO of the organization, he used to handle HR from the very first day. Last week only, the managing director of HPCL, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, announced Mr. Push Joshi. He is from HR background. He's XLRI alumni. So nobody can say that, no, I am on a marketing, I cannot handle finance, or I am a HR person, I don't know how to work on the finance or marketing. There is a lot of challenges which you need to understand. And there is some misconception also that once you will be coming to the company, you will be only asked a question about your domain. If you are a marketing person and I'm giving you a budget to do a market campaign, I will not ask you just where you have invested the money. I will be asking you the money you have invested, what is the outcome of that money? What kind of footfalls you will get on that? So there is a big example of that. Every year in IPL, we are getting a Vodafone Zuzu campaign. It is not only about how the Zuzu campaign is running. It is another thing, how much connection of Vodafone going to sell in coming days. So that is the market campaign is always required. So that's what you need to understand. That is the overall learning you need to get on those things. So objective of overall simulation is how to make decision out of those things. You know the processes, you know the best out of those things. ATL activities, BTL activities, we are giving you a lot of information, but which product is better, which decision is better, which decision is better in a long term and a short term. If I want to make a plant now, let's go to the IPO. When we go to the IPO, as an investor, I see that, okay, I will get the share of the organization, but I will be never an owner of that company if I'm not having a majority share. But what company is doing with the IPO money? Are they taking the money at their home? No. In the short term notice, they are giving you the share of the company. They are taking your money but expansion of the company. They are thinking in a long term. The money they will get in the company, they will invest in the future expansion, they will get a lot of business, and that's way the company and thinking in a long term. So you need to understand in that all continuous changing environment, which is keep going on changing. That is what we need to learn on those objective about this education. Key learning is business acumen, how to make business decision, how to think of the future, how to talk about the crisis. Crisis, like there was a demand in the market in the March 2020, but there was not a supply process. How to go on those kind of challenges, how we can go on different. If Apple 13 is coming with the new technology, how Samsung is working on the new technology, there is a lot of understanding you need to do. So there is a two aspect which you need to work on that. One is your internal company and your external. That is the virtual environment which we are going to learn on those things. And in education, why we are using this developing your critical skills like business acumen, negotiation, team behavior, and all these things. And institution is using for assessment also. And it is very enjoyable. It is fully enjoyable because you are able to compete. If I'm playing against Mr. Rao, so I will be able to see that what kind of mistakes he's doing or what kind of things he's doing better than me. So I can compete with him, I can learn from him. So that's what we all want to do on those things. And there is a lot of practices, a lot of real-time environment you are getting. If I am asking you a budget, I'm just giving you one example, and after that I'll finish my presentation, another 2 minutes. So let's assume Professor S.S Rao is the CEO of this organization, and Dr. P Srinivas is CFO, and I am a new age CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and I go to the Srinivas Rao, sir, you are a CFO. I want to offer 20% discount on my product this Holi festival. And Professor Srinivas Rao, he's a typical finance guy. He sees in the balance sheet, he said that, Ravi, I cannot offer you more than 5%. Now let's have a discussion, my negotiation skills, my future planning. I'm each and discussing. Sorry, Mr. Rao, I'm saying typical thing, those things. But again, he's a finance guy. He doesn't want to lose the money.
Yes.
But I want to increase the market. So what to do in that case? Let's have a negotiation, fight in each and everything. And it is very common in the market. So let's go to Professor S.S Rao as a CEO, and let me discuss with him as on those things. And after 10 minutes of individual discussion with me and Professor Srinivas Rao, CEO made a decision, Ravi, forget about 20%. And Dr. Srinivas Rao, let's give him 10% discount this year. But the next question from DP, Mr. Srinivas Rao, sir, we don't have the money in the bank. What to do? How we can offer that? Then Professor S.S.P. Rao called Mr. Balaji from the operation. If we increase the production, can we get that kind of margin? Yes, let's take the money from the bank. And there can be another question from Dr. P. Srinivas, sir, we cannot take a loan from the bank because bank has a very high interest rates for us. We will be in the loss. Okay, let's issue our shares. Let's take from the market. We are just giving the share. And then Mr. Rao gave me a challenge. Ravi, I'm giving you 10%, but the forecasting you have given me of 10 lakh users, I want 15 lakh users now. I will give you the best of the price and all these things. And on back end of the story, he's working with the operational guy, reducing the cost. He's not telling me each and everything. That's the way company is working. That's why I'm saying simulation learning is the best way to learn. And it is very entertaining. And I'm giving you the example, and you can see the smile of all the Dr. Raos, because yes, that is the real-time experience they are facing also. And everywhere it is happening. So that's the pure idea of the simulation, to make it interesting rather than in a lecture, because we know 80% people will be watching mobile phone in the class on the digital mode. They are not even opening the cameras. So we want you to make this thing enjoy this learning. That is what we are looking on those things. I don't want to pitch my simulation software, what they are doing. So these are some screenshots which we are going, and you can see that if anybody is joining the organization, chairman is giving the message to the CEO. Chairman means board of the directors. These days we are listening a lot of news about Bharat Pay. The founder is getting outside because certain issues, which this is not the right platform to discuss on that. But that is the idea, how to work on those things. What is the company background? What is your objective? Is you are coming me in a CEO? What is my revenue? This is what is my production planning? What is my products? You can see that I'm giving you all the information, where you are working, what are the companies, what are your competitors, what are your positioning. I will not choose you. Company will, as a CEO, you will not always decided on the profit. You have to follow with all the parameter. They want to see what kind of customer base you have, how much satisfaction they have, what is your internal process, how happy your employees. So you can understand these days there is a company, the Great Place to Work. They are accredited in the organization that this company is very good place to work. And we love to go to those companies rather than a company where we always getting nagging out and we don't want to work on those organizations. So these overall aspects you need to understand. That's what we are talking about. You need to learn about what is the market share, benchmarking, and it is for all. Even for HR person, if they are normally HR people, students called, sir, I not need to just take interviews. No, you are not the right person to take the interviews. You will just scrutinize the people. The department head will take the final interviews. But your idea is to make them trained, hiring and firing cost. You need to each and everything. That's what we need to do. Product designing, which product need to be launched, why iPhone is launching a product every new year or every next year, what they do, what kind of marketing they have done, how they reduce the cost. We made a fun in 2020 when iPhone launched. They removed that socket and they just gave the wire, because they mentioned if there is a new iPhone user, he must be having the USB port. So why to invest on that? They reduce the cost by 8% on their inventory on the mobile phone. So that's why you need to work on a lot of ideas. So this is all about simulation when we are talking about. I'm not going through the simulation lab, what is all about, because that is the duty of Firebird to give you the information, because they are the partner in Coimbatore. They will be tell you all the information. So simulation, I conclude everything we work on the simulation. Even like, for example, I cannot allow you to play in a cricket match directly with the opposition. You need to do a simulation practice in the practice field. That is also a simulation. It is not a practice. That is a simulation. Like the ball can come like this, the ball can come like this, it can hit like you this, and there can be a lot of variance. And again, practicing a cricket in a practice field, it is best example of simulation. Because if you are teaching them, we are training them, we give a lot of experience. Yahan maar ke dekho, ye karke dekho, practice karke dekho, please change your strategy. That is all about simulation. Even when you are going driving a car, we are giving you a lot of class selection directly on the screen by sitting on the field. I cannot give you a Mercedes directly on the road. So that's why there is a lot of information which we are talking about. So I'm AIMA, and this is the all information. I don't want to brief you about the AIMA because this forum is all about what we are talking about, this simulation. So I hope this all information will be useful for you and you will be using in your activities. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Shrinivas Rao. Over to SSPR. And
thank you, Ravi.
Just one more thing, Professor Damlekar. I am just your mentee. So please, if there is some mistake, please don't scold me on this platform. I will discuss you later on that.
No, now what happened when you're sitting in front of your mentor, definitely you are very careful. You might have kept something for the agenda. No, really, we are really fortunate to have Vinodji today. And to be Firebird is really lucky to have it today. Actually, it was not officially, we did not put on agenda, but my tone of agenda will little change now. After Amy Menon, I want a very, very different kind of, discussion between Dr. Prasada Rao and Vinodji, because the level Prasada Rao is in learning only. He did a lot of activity, and he's a very senior professor in research and learning environment. And he has seen thousands of students graduating from Geetham University. Now, I leave Dr. Prasad to with interaction with Vinodji. That will be very, different kind of level altogether. So I will not get into that one now. I will request Amy Menon, since she has to be in the global level researcher, and she has seen many B-schools across the globe. And what is the impact of experiential learning to the outcome of the students at world level business school, so that you can tone up that way?
Sure, let me just share my screen here. So I'll just give you a little brief background about AACSB. the organization which I work for. And one of the things about AACSB is that we are a premier global accreditor. And experiential learning has been in the AACSB standards since 2013. And the standard of the 2020 standards is curriculum. So, and that is where we address the area of experiential learning. But just to quick give you an overview of AACSB, we have, this is the map of the world, obviously. In the dark green, these are all the countries where we have AACSB accredited schools. And then you can see in the light green, that's where we have AACSB members, but yet to have an AACSB accredited school. And so there are very few countries in the world where we don't have a presence. And our mission is to foster engagement. So you can see it's built in, accelerate innovation, and amplify impact in business education. And we value the things of quality, diversity, inclusion, global mindset, ethics, social responsibility, and community. So these are all part of what we do as an organization. And just to give you some insights into our presence in India specifically, we have 75 members, 17 of them are accredited, 24 are in the process of trying to become accredited. And over here on the right, you have the list of schools in India, which are all accredited in the year they received their initial accreditation. So we're pretty active in India, and one of the things that I can certainly say about schools here in general is they're very high on engagement. Engagement of learners, engagement of faculty in the teaching and learning process, engagement with industry overall. So when we look at schools overall, I would say, the schools that I worked with in India have this ingrained in sort of their DNA, is this idea of engagement. So what are the standards themselves kind of encompass? And this is important because when we wrote the 2020 standards, and so AACSB is run by business deans. So those who are running business schools are those who sit on our board and who run our organization. They are the volunteers who make the decisions on accreditation reviews as well. So when they sat down to design the 2020 standards, they said, what makes an excellent business school? And so the standards are structured in that way. An excellent business school has strategic management and innovation as a component of what it does, and it has the resources to support its strategic goals. It also has this focus on what learner success. Notice we're not calling it student success. It's learner success. We believe that business schools engage participants in the learning process, and they're not just students. So as we look at lifelong learning and things like that, we start to redefine who are the learners. They include faculty, they include students, they include industry, right? And so I'm going to narrow down on one of the learner success standards that we talked about, which is curriculum. But then you have to also know that there's an expectation that the school is engaged in a process of assurance of learning, meaning we talked a lot about what are these competencies, what are these things that you're going to have to learn as a result of engaging in a business program. And we expect that business schools actually have data and have about whether or not their students are actually learning that. Right, so it's similar to some of the standards that the MBA accreditation here in India has, which is outcome-based education goals, and so that's what we call assurance of learning. So that's embedded within what we do, and a lot of times simulations, experiential learning is really important to being able to assess whether students have overall learned or learners have learned what you expected them to learn. And then in standard 7, which is teaching effectiveness and impact, this is, you have a curriculum, of course, but are your faculty prepared? Are the faculty prepared to actually deliver that curriculum? And that's what faculty development programs and things like that Ravi Jangra was talking about. So that's the learner success standards. And then of course, we also require that schools have engagement and scholarship. And a lot of times schools will have engagement and scholarship that is focused on things like business school pedagogy, teaching and learning scholarship is also a component of that. So it all fits and encompasses, and it's a holistic review. There are no weightages. There's nothing in here that would say that, you know, you have to have XYZ. It's non-prescriptive, meaning schools are given freedom to innovate and create impact that is relevant to their context. So just drilling into standard 4 in the curriculum, this is what we look at. And I remember I said it's not prescriptive. You're not going to see anything in here that says you have to have a course in marketing. We expect that the school is able to deliver content that is current, relevant, forward-looking, and globally oriented, and that it aligns with those program competency goals. So it's designed to deliver competency goals. And also we expect that it cultivates agility with current and emerging technologies. This is where business simulations and experiential learning in general is really important in that process, because we don't say what technology. It depends on the program. It depends where the student is going, but it should be both agility with current and emerging. Schools should be at the cutting edge of what technology is out there. And you should have, as students, would have access to that technology and exposure to that. As I mentioned, you can see that the school is expected to manage the curriculum. And this is how the curriculum, through assessment, systematic review, they ensure currency, relevancy, and competencies. And I'm going to, in a few minutes, drill down on 4.3 and 4.4 a little bit more, because this is where we say it has to promote and foster innovation. The curriculum has to have experiential learning. There has to be a lifelong learning mindset. Remember, these are business programs. The world of business is dynamic. We expect that the curriculum not only teaches you for the career that you're going to graduate and enter into immediately after school, but it prepares you for a career, for a life of learning and changing and relearning as you go. So that's an expectation of the program, and that you're all not just focused on things like profit maximization and things like that, that there is some elements of how as someone who's going out and working in the world will have a positive societal impact. And we expect that there is learner to learner and learner to faculty engagement. So a business simulation oftentimes gives you that opportunity to have learner engagement, especially through gamification and other things, and professional engagement as well, because they're usually designed around what is going on and how businesses actually function. So with that, just looking at the rationale. So again, looking at, are you prepared not only for your career, but also do you have a lifelong learning mindset, and that you have access to current and technological agility is built into what you do. So when we look at standard 4, which is innovation, experiential learning, this idea of lifelong learning and societal impact, we're looking obviously at the curriculum. The curriculum should be innovative. It should be innovative in its teaching approaches. And we look at how schools create systems that allow that. If one person is saying, you have to do exactly this to all the faculty, there won't be any innovation. So we expect that faculty are involved in that process. We expect that they interact with students and learn and create an engaging environment. We expect that, of course, there's this engagement between the school and community with experiential learning. Experiential learning can put you out into the field in various ways, whether it's, as we've all been online, we realize that we can actually do that digitally as well as in person. But that's the value of experiential learning, is that you get a chance to interact and get viewpoints from various sources. Lifelong learning, of course, this is this idea of encouraging intellectual curiosity and critical thinking. We recognize that the job that you may have 10 years from now may not even exist today. So how are you prepared for that? And then looking at positive societal impact. Again, it is these ideas that I actually remember one of my first business simulations I ever did. It was a bit rudimentary at the time, but I was optimizing for performance, and everybody on my team kept getting sick, right? So I had to actually build in what I had to build in that human side of what I was doing, because everybody on my team was getting sick. So even today, I recognize that, you have to really check in, and you have to be a human. And I learned that through a computer. So that was an interesting lesson. But that's the idea of how we look at the curriculum. Nothing in here says you have to have marketing. We know, and you have to know the marketing concepts. You have to have the financial concepts. Those are all there. But more importantly is, as in the world of work, we recognize that these sort of durable skills will come from these kinds of components versus some of the others that have been in the curriculum and in the standards in the past. And it also doesn't allow for innovation when you're prescriptive about the various types of business disciplines and things. Technology is kind of crowding out a lot of the past sort of quantitative analysis and things like that, because you're not doing that so much in today's world. There's technologies there to advance beyond that. So how do you deal with those? How do you work with those? So again, 4.4 engagement, again, we've talked about this, but this is really, I think this is where I said Indian schools shine in many ways, because there is quality learner to learner engagement. Peer learning is so valuable, and it's something that is done really well here. Learner to faculty interactions, I can't tell you how many faculty I know do extra tutorials for their students just because they want to make sure they got the concepts down. And that there are activities at the school within the community. Students put on student fests and things like that. These are all expectations of what would be in an AACSB accredited school's curriculum. So with just that, I'll cut it short, and if we can go for questions back to you. Just wanted to share that with you.
It's really wonderful, wonderful, very crisp, but in very enlightenment and very in depth its nature. And that's what you represent AACSB. And thank you very much for your presentation. And now I would like to request the Amlezi, Vinodji, to, give a combination of it. And because you're senior most person, and I would like to ask Dr. Prasad to interact in a different format, not delivering this, because he knows so much. Vinodji knows so much about this, and Dr. Prasad only can probe him to get the best out of it. That's what I feel it. Dr. Prasad, now we have to probe sir to get the best out of it from your experience, and allow Vinodji to pour the the experience today on the platform.
Yeah, all right. Good evening, everyone. It's a really wonderful platform to discuss the experiential learning, both offline and e-learning, experiential e-learning. Whatever Ravi Jangra has given presentation, excellent, simulation, business games, how we can do a strategy. Actually management program is all about integrating various functional areas, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of HR, finance, operations, supply chain, talent acquisition, everything is there. But how to integrate everything into shareholder value creation, shareholder value maximization? That is the ultimate goal. Need not be profit. Profit may be in the short term, but value creation, value maximization is the ultimate goal of every business organization. Friends, business does not mean charity. We should never expect any kind of charity from business. Business means commercial. Business means profit making. Business means value creation. Business means wealth creation. That is very, very important. That's why business leaders, those who do well, they are the leaders. They are the employment generators. They are the wealth creators. They are actually leading the country, leading the society in a more productive way. But how they are doing is all different. We need to educate our students. We need to educate our children how to be responsible business leadership, ethical business leadership. Of course, there are so many courses that are integrated in every program. I'm really very happy. Ravi, you made a fantastic session. How simulations, because I had the experience working with Vinodji Vinod Damblekarji, when he was conducting, a 5-day workshop, every student, used to claim, yeah, I wish to be CMO so that I can increase the sales. Hello, it is not that easy to increase the sales unless there is a support from the production department, from the finance department, from the accounting department, from even R&D, even the sales team. It is not that easy. Suppose I want to increase the production, I need to increase the people also, resources. For resources, there should be HR budget. Then who will allow that? These are the kinds of things, used to be discussed at length. Even Vinodji used to stay on campus whenever he visits the campus for this kind of training programs. Till evening 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the regular sessions will be completed by 5 o'clock, the normal course of every class. But it used to be extended during the lunch, dinner also, evening, because he used to stay on campus. That's why I wish to ask Vinodji only very fundamental question. This is a follow-up question. This thing came out of the discussion from Mr. Ravi Jangra. Vinodji.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, great. So, how to make a proper business value proposition without compromising the functional areas, without compromising the every aspect of every functional area of the management?
That's a very tall order, but before that, I would like to thank Mr. Jangra for covering so many issues all put together and in ways that we had not envisaged way back 20 odd years back. The game setup had started somewhere in maybe December 98.
Yes.
It's about 20.
Last year, I concluded 30th edition of NMG.
Oh, okay.
So it is more than 30 years, sir. Because this year I will be doing 31st edition.
No, the NMG started earlier, but the games that were conducted by us started only in 99, I think.
Yeah, that I think 95, 96, something.
Because they were our games. Earlier, there was some Sri Lankans who was settled in Singapore. He used to come and play a game that was made in Norway using COBOL.
GMC. That is GMC.
GMP. SMP was not yet born at that time. SMP came a little later.
Sure.
So 99, the business plan, we had it. Then we created a name for it. I offered of two names, of course, Enterprise and Chanakya. Enterprise with a Z. Not merely because it was an American spelling, but more to do because at that time, the games that were conducted were for competitions. They were not for learning.
Yeah.
The current focus on learning, experiential learning and other forms of learning, business learning, etc., is very good because that I think creates much more value for the participant. Otherwise, the competitor simply tries to, how shall I say, explore and conjecture about various things and say, this must have happened and that must have happened, etc. And as facilitators, we had no possibility for correcting or even entering into his point of view because we were judges also at that particular point in time. You can't be both judge and umpire at the same time, as well as say a counselor or a coach. So thank you for covering such a wide variety of topics. I saw you mentioned Lay's quotation, Elizabeth Lay. That's her first name. She's been a colleague for almost 18 years, since 2004. And the other matters that you have shown up in your presentation were very deep. And I think some of them will remain with me for quite some time, and enrich my own thinking about the games. So your question about the answer is very big because business as such is a huge system. It's inside and outside. Inside means within the organization and outside the organization. Outside the organization, we see it more as strategy and a focus on cash, the customer, competition, etc. Inside, we have the typical HR and psychological issues as to how the team works, how we recognize roles and tasks and responsibilities and so on. Bringing the two together is like is a very exciting and dangerous proposition, because people inside sometimes don't seem to understand what's happening outside, and those who are connected with the markets and the customers find it difficult to get back inside and address the human issues. The answer is not very simple, especially when people come up with the various ways of valuing something or assessing something. I think your Baldrige assessment model, etc., has some 200 or 300 indicators. That itself tells us that understanding or assessing or recognizing what might be business performance itself is a huge challenge. So in the games that Mr. Jangra plays, probably we have just one target at the end of the game to be able to work with, and that's it. Somehow we get the participants to play around that one single target. But in real life, you could have 250 or 300 or 400, etc. And these models are very common, or they were maybe 20 years back. The Tata business model, and I think Aditya Birla had some world-class manufacturing model, etc., etc. And then we had the Baldrige also. Then there are others whose names I think have probably been forgotten into history. I don't know whether I've covered the topic is too huge. I could cover a narrower question if necessary.
Yes, sir, you're true. Even the students, each student is also, we have to play their satisfaction quotient we have to fulfill. You know, each student is different. His desire levels are different. His aspiration is different. His vertical of career is different. So it helps a lot. It's a huge matrix, what you say, that indicators could be infinite.
Yeah, that's why.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why even the Baldrige model or whatever the major consultants across the world, they do not provide solutions. They provide alternatives. You know, they don't give, this is the solution you follow. That's what I understand from my own experience. They always provide alternatives. If you do this, this will be the consequences. If you do this, this will be the consequence. Select whichever is suitable to you. Like that, you know, they offer. In fact, management education is all about providing alternatives to every problem or a perceived problem. Because the other day, while Mr. Rajesh was talking about the design thinking, he's saying problem is not the real problem. Problem is only symptom. The problem may be somewhere. The root cause of the problem should be eradicated first, not the problem. Problem is, you know, only a symptom. We cannot find solutions for the symptoms. We can find solutions for the roots. So identifying the root is very important. Like that, you know, the business school, the business games, or the methodology, the pedagogical tools we use are actually giving opportunity to the student to understand the problem from various dimensions and provide alternatives to the problem, alternatives to the challenge, alternatives to the issue. That's why the experiential learning is very, very important, because the wisdom and the understanding about the problem will be very concrete if a person is exposed to the experiential learning, maybe a field work, a case study, a research work, or a role play, even community connect. You know, most of the, even Ms. Amy also saying that curriculum should be connected with the community. In fact, students are excited to do the community connect programs more, because they engage and they learn from their peers. They learn from these situations. That is also now very, very important. And one more very important thing is innovations will come only maybe sometimes with imitation, then creation, then innovation, or imitation, creation, then innovation, or imitation, innovation, creation. The cycle could be anything, like knowledge, ability, skills, etc. So most of the students are being exposed nowadays for experiential situations, so that they will have the hands-on experience. The simulations is one. The scenario analysis is another thing. You know, they create scenarios. That's what Chanakya I think Vinodji used to give a lot of scenarios. Suppose you want to make $10,000 in a day. I will give you this much amount of investment. I'm here to finance you, but show me the return on investment. Like that, he used to challenge. That's why he used to challenge team-wise. Suppose anybody wants to do something, piecemeal. One has to strategize the HR, one has to strategize marketing, one has to strategize finance, one has to strategize operations. Everyone should minimize the cost on one side, maximize the benefit on the other side. And finally, he used to say, everything, because the students, the participants will observe everything from every perspective. Finally, they will consolidate the learning. Because they should understand both pros and cons, both limitations and advantages. And that is possible only when they go through the process. The process is the brainstorming sometimes, or hands-on experience, or simulations, sometimes scenario analysis. And most of the things nowadays happening in experiential e-learning is social media learning. There are so many people sharing so much on the social media, particularly LinkedIn. And these learnings are becoming the platform for understanding and absorbing so much. Because now there is a concept called less is more. Nobody wants more at a time. Everybody wants very less. From the less, they are understanding more and more depending on their capacities and capabilities. So I wish to stop it here, and I wish to ask one more question to Vinodji. Vinodji, I don't ask you very difficult question. As I was saying that, instead of asking the top question at the end of the day, what is the top maximum, maximization of value creation? How do you, give tasks to function-wise teams? How do you allocate the jobs in the process of learning?
The secret of this is probably in what Mr. Jangra told us. He said doing is learning, and doing is also experiential learning. So it is the act from which we understand. Therefore, here you have another clue. All of us can do the same acts in parallel, but all of us will learn differently. So therefore, the learning is an individual, personalized process around which those tasks and roles need to be, if possible, structured. But often it doesn't happen, because often we get, what do they say, a square peg and a round hole. It doesn't go, it doesn't fit. So therefore, that gap between the job that has been given to me and the job that I can do is the scope for learning. And the fastest way I can learn is by doing. The very act of play, I think Mr. Jangra has also spoken about, talked about, or shown what is play. Play is the freedom to act. Play is not the game. Play is the freedom to act, and the game only puts borders around what I can do. Now, if you can do that, I have a lot of space despite the constraints in the game. The constraints on the game are the stuff that you see in football and cricket and other things. This is what you can't do, this is what you can do. For example, in cricket, you can bowl 6 overs, 6 balls and an over. That's a constraint. Or the space between 2 wickets is a constraint. But these constraints actually make you think better as to how you can overcome the constraint. The task that you do, the play, that is the one that is the source of roles and tasks and responsibilities. And that is the one that combine together to make the person in that particular function. And therefore, if you can put tasks together in such a way that offers a challenge to the doer, that is whosoever is, CEO, CEO, even an executive, he will feel engaged to be able to overcome those tasks, and therefore he will perform better if the tasks offer him a small constraint all the time. If the job is too easy, he will fail. If the job is too tough, he will not be able to do it. It has to be somewhere in between. In fact, the research says That is the definition of what is called fun. So a fun role is one where the person is able to attack problems at the right level, at the right size, at the right level of complexity. And there lies the secret of the role and the function.
That's excellent, sir. Amy Menon, you would like to interact with Dr. Vinodji on a very any specific area?
Yeah, one more addition point to Vinodji. I mean, fun is very important, but at the same time, reward also is important. Suppose there is reward, they are excited to continue. There is no reward, they will withdraw. That's why most of the games, they are not earlier Tomcat, these, Solitaire. There are so many, even PUBG. In fact, their games are really very, very good. They engage the students. But unfortunately, instead of taking on the positive side, they are, becoming addicts to this and, wasting a lot of time and not able to take the actually what is expected out of that game or event. That's the problem. There, the teachers, I think, to take a lead, and educate them properly. The facilitator, not only the teacher, the facilitator role is very, very important.
Yeah, I think one of the things we know is that our understanding of sort of what happens in the mind is improving day by day, of course, right? And that gets applied to learning theory as well. And one of the things that we've known for a while is exactly that is, habits and things that are immediately rewarded are sought, and those which are punished are, avoided, right? So how do we encourage this harder sort of learning? How do we reward real learning in the process and encourage that? And that's, there are a lot of systems going against us. We know this. And I was actually, you can go on LinkedIn or whatever, and you can see 100 people doing webinars and things like this. And sometimes they're really well edited and they're excited and there's things popping up here and there. And that's the world we live in today. And so we have to, recognize that exists and that but there's also a movement towards focus, a movement towards other things. So I think as educators, we have a sincere responsibility to really hone in these kinds of concepts and understand them when we apply. We create games, we create, and that just teaching in front of a whiteboard isn't enough anymore, right? That's just, we have to accept that. So we have to look at both sides of it. Absolutely.
I just want to add on here, like for example, when we are talking about a reward system, Professor Rao,
yeah,
my experience with the reward system is that yes, reward is very much required. I totally agree with you. And that's why what I learned about this Chanakya game and the game which Professor Rao has, Mr. Vinod is running, there is a reward system. But the problem with the person who is participating in the point, they need to understand. And that is the learning which we are getting from the very childhood. That is, getting a one position is very easy. To sustain that position is very difficult.
Exactly.
So that's why even the game designed by Mr. Vinod and all this, that is okay. You are doing very good in quarter wise. We are giving you the final result and some trophies and some certificate at the final of the financial year closing. That's why we give them the positioning and all. The problem with the students, I'm saying particularly the student, for them reward should be something tangible. Something tangible for them. They need something. So that's, yes, they can get on that. I'm just giving an example. I born and brought up in a very small city in Haryana, and I gone to the typical government school. But there was also a reward system. When we done a board exam and we got some position and distinction and the final year of exam, we were getting a scholarship. I will not say the bucks, because in that case you will be able to understand how old I am, because that is a very small amount. Because I used to give a fees of 15 rupees only that time. So you can understand the kind of. So we used to get the fees rebate. At the same time, we used to get some amount of money per month at the to get our some development. But there is another constraint on that. Final year exam, if I'm passing out and I'm going in the next class, after every sessional exam, in my time it used to be in September and December, now it is a sessional, I need to again retain that position. If I am not able to that, my scholarship will discontinue. And there is a lot of level, like for example, if you are getting 75% distinction, you will get X amount of money. If you are the topper of mathematics subject, you will get this of money. If you are getting English, next time if you are not in topper of English, but you get a distinction, you will not get the scholarship of English or mathematics. That reward system was there. And here I want to come on that. And the question which you asked, and being as a practitioner of the management practices and academician, this was the first question asked by me when I wanted to launch a business lab, because that's why what me made a system. I cannot show right now, although I don't want to show here because it will be more on product positioning that time, but I think I will take this leverage and I will put this on Dr. Shrinivas' duty on that. In my business lab, what we have done, there is a workshop model which is very much required for enterprise learning, where they are working in a team and all these things. Second thing, we have given a positioning to the student. And after there is a position they need to maintain, and the top 10 student of India is placed on the website right now. It is a live across India, because if somebody is able to retain that, because that's why we have given us some leverage, they can play multiple times in a year, like the PUBG, the stages and all these things. End of the financial academic year, we will be facilitating top 3 student of India. But the problem that they need to retain that position. If they are not retaining, if I have reached the first position and after that I'm not going, sorry, you are not applicable to that. Why I'm coming on this position now? I want to take 2 minutes more, and then I'll give you example why it's not only should not limited to the management education. It should go to the engineering student also and to the corporates. I'll take 2 minutes more. I have run this program in one of the engineering company in Kolkata, and the idea of this company is to give the management education to their employees, because that company was working in an engineering sector and they are providing B2B services to the manufacturing companies. They used to give the design to the company first about this setup, and then they pitch the solution, then they are asked. So the minimum product value can be 10 lakhs and maximum can be 50 lakh rupees. The only problem, it is a mechanical company, so they are supposed to hire only and only mechanical engineer. Now you understand the problem of the chairman. Being as an engineer, there one engineer is going to the client side, he is taking the requirement, he's telling the solution, he giving the specs, and client is saying, okay, done, 50 lakh rupees order booked. And the engineer is coming to the company, oh yes, I got an order of 50 lakh rupees for my company. Where is the money? I got an only order. You will get the money once you deliver the product. And the lead time to deliver the product is between 1 month to 4 months. So he was very much okay that, okay, I got the order. I got an order of 50 lakh rupees, but there is a zero amount in his company account. But engineer was very happy. That's the problem when we run this game. And as Mr. Vinod said that, and this is the question of your one of the answer of your one of the question, how to get them the role. When we given them the complete history to all the engineer that this is the company which you need to manage for next 1 day, example for 1 financial year, believe me, after the first 1 hour of presentation, one guy stood up and he said that, sir, can I sell my company right now? Because I cannot handle so much of data. And after first quarter, the chairman came and he took the feedback from the one of the participant, and the engineer said that, sir, I understand the value of the money today, because without money, I cannot give the salary. I cannot get the new product. Tomorrow only, I will go to all my clients and I will ask my money, pending money from them. So there are so many learnings which we would have, but there is a reward on that, as you rightly mentioned. So yes, we can put some rewards, but yes, for the student, there is a problem. As I mentioned, they want a tangible thing, which I cannot offer. I can offer only ranking and certificate, but yes, we can definitely, with the help of the institution, we can make some provision on that.
Thank you, Ravi. It's a wonderful, explanation about this. And in fact, the entire team has given a gamut of, all kinds of theory and practical. We are very fortunate to have such an experienced people for experiential learning now. And can we connect to Raj Saab I think he's traveling. He's invisible because of the camera, because it is dark. Sir, at least
Raj
you would
sir,
like to, sir, you would like
Raj
to
sir, you are
listen.
mute. Raj sir, you
Raj.
wanted to say, but you are mute.
Unmute, sir. Unmute.
Yeah,
now-
I'm connected.
Yes, sir. Please
Yeah.
go ahead, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
sir.
audible. Audible. Now you can go ahead, sir.
Fine. So I'm enjoying. In fact, in a way, there was some problem of this internet. So that's why I was not connected for 15 to 20 minutes in the
Yes, sir.
beginning of the program. This has provided me an opportunity to enjoy very scintillating discussion. This Ravi has made a very nice presentation, and I was thrilled to see Dr. Vinod Damlekar, my good friend, and his views about the simulation. He has also done a very good research, written a lot of very good papers, which are globally recognized. So very different kind of program. And then this Miss Menon, her presentation about this outcome-based learning. And this is really very, very inspiring and good for creating quality management institute in our country. Professor Prasad, definitely he has also provided his very good views in this discussion. So I'm really thrilled. I really enjoyed this session. And what I would like to say that, in my opinion, management education, like any other education or any other social sciences specifically, is a technical science. And this technical science, this has been derived more by the practice. So definitely when this has been derived more by the practice, so most of the theories, most of the concepts that have been formulated by the practice. And in a present context, after the lockdown, and then in this corona wave, this digitization, this has become one of the biggest challenge, and this has been adapted in a remotest part of the country. Likewise, this industry 4.0 is also making a massive transformation. Introduction of this artificial intelligence, this blockchain, this robotics, Internet of Things. They are making organization very flexible, and this is what that if these organizations are not changing, then entire is also. Likewise, this is what that MSME, that too have become very dynamic by adopting this digitization process if they have to survive and if they have to thrive. Digitization, and likewise that this emergence after this startup. So this is again a new phenomena. So we are seeing that just a lot of changes that are taking place. In that particular kind of changes, the simulation games, how these are going to be implanted in management education, this is one of the biggest challenge. Like this AIMA and my colleague Ravi is spreading this movement, and this was started earlier by Dr. Rao and then Dr. Damlekar, and this is reaching to large number of B-School. So this is definitely AIMA, being a body of professional body of management, is doing its best. So this is one approach. Another approach is what that this case writing, case teaching, because case teaching and case writing, this is again based on experiential learning. And this is what that by taking this any life situation in company, in organization, and finding out that what is this dilemma and how this dilemma that can be solved. On that basis, this is what that industry-based cases teaching cases can be written and which are going to be adopted by B-School. So this AIMA is also taking a very active step in this direction, and we have a few years back with active support of industries set up this case research center where we have developed around 60 cases which have been uploaded on our website. We have a collaboration with all major IIMs, ISB. Yesterday, we had collaborated with the Asian School of Asian Case Center also going to organize second conference where this large number of participation from industry as well as academia is going to take place. So this is another area by which we can impart quality, and then we can make management education more pragmatic, more practice oriented for this decision making. So then there is not only going to be excitement for the students, but there is also going to be excitement for faculty members. Third, another area where this is what that AIMA, with this change in this education policy, new education policy is imparting. This is what that by collaborating with the All India Council for Technical Education, imparting training programs, faculty development programs, and we have done this before lockdown, several training programs in various parts of the countries, and further we had a meeting with the chairman AICT few days back, and then we are again going to start this process of conducting various kind of this training program. So and MDBs, conferences on a new theme, new age. This is well known. Another important thing which we have recently launched, and that is very, very important because I too is a part of your this advisory body, and I know that your institute is very good in terms of faculty, in terms of your this students participation, in terms of this industry connect, this launching of new age courses. So we have in our panel quite distinguished professors from IIT Mumbai, and this IIT Delhi, and this IIMS also. So we have launched this new age courses. So these courses we are launching and we are conducting very successfully. These are all these courses are online courses. So by doing all these things, all these activities, we are very actively trying to enhance the quality of management education, where this experiential learning is very important component of entire pedagogy, and how institute they can upgrade their quality, how they can develop the approach model for lifelong learning, and how more and more institute in India are going to be accredited by AACSB. Now we have quite sizable number of institutes which are accredited by AACSB. So this is again a very good development. So with these words, I am really very thankful for providing me an opportunity and listening my views patiently, and even due to my internet connection, again providing me an opportunity to speak. Thank you very much, and I am really very happy to participate in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your chief guest address, sir. We are really got inspired by your insight of various areas of management education, and we have really had a strong and elite class of discussion on the experiential learning, and with all these kinds of insight, our founder and managing director, Dr. Sundaraman, I don't know, he has visualized all these things well in advance. From the day one, the Firebird Business School has specifically designed its course and curriculum empathetically. The empathy map is a fundamental, drive for running this Firebird School. And Firebird Business School has been signing MOUs with the industry continuously. I want to tell the industry as well as the academia community that we sign an MOU every week with all the industries, SMEs in Coimbatore and other places also. We are signing MOU with NGOs also. What is the benefit of signing an MOU with the industry? I'm not looking for what syllabus has to be prepared. I'm going to the industry and asking them, what is your JD? For next 2 years, what is your JD in the financial area, in the HR area, in the marketing area? That JD I'm bringing here into the business school, asking the faculty and industry mentor together to develop a syllabus. This we are autonomous, we have the driving force to complement industry's requirement. At the same time, agencies like accrediting agencies like AACSB, they're giving a world-class global curriculum. They're giving an insight, a direction, a mapping is being done, not only at Coimbatore level or South India level, at Indian level. We are taking care of the global drivers, what that is important for a student. So our curriculum is not aimed for 2 years. Our curriculum is looking towards next 25 years, what a student has to balance his personal life, social life, and professional endurance. So this is what we are doing at Firebird with the help of industry support, with the help of bodies like AIMA and with the help of like AACSB. We are going to be shortly the member of AACSB also. We're looking forward from Amy Menon to help us, and a person like a great management guru from Mantis or Vinodji. Definitely, I would like to invite you personally to visit our campus. So Dr. Prasad is always there. Dr. Agrawal ji is there. Now it's a time for taking questions from the audience. I think we have taken 1.5 hours.
Yeah, one more minute. I wish to take.
Yes.
It is actually to supplement your talk only. There are 10 to 11 methods of experiential learning, starting from academic service learning, maybe NSS, NCC, social service league, scouts, guides, etc. And second one is case studies, role plays, business games, maybe Mantis, Chanakya, etc., even Capstone, internships, student teaching, practicum, community-based community connect programs, fieldwork, even study abroad. And the major important point I could understand from the recent talk from Professor Srinivas is that cooperative education. Very few institutions have this concept called cooperative education. Means the students work part-time, students study part-time. They will spend 50% of their time on the campus, 50% of the time on the in-field. And I'm very happy to know that Bannari Amman Group is actually facilitating. They are not depending on other industries. They are ready themselves, accommodating the students. That's a great, thing. I think that's a wonderful. This is called cooperative learning. Cooperative education and cooperative learning. That's a USP of, the Firebird. I understand after discussion with Professor Srinivas Rao. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Professor Rajesh, now can you take questions one by one? And also, Satish, you can permit the video also. Whoever would like to put a question, and all the panel members are ready to answer them.
Yes, sir. Very good evening. Is it audible?
Question. Yeah, you're audible. One by one question you can take, and also bring them in the video also. And Satish, you can unmute. I mean, you can unmute them. They can be in the screen also.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. There is a question from Mr. Subramaniam. Is there a good textbook on simulation used in education to suggest some textbooks for simulations?
Whom it is meant? Question is meant for?
It is meant for everybody, sir.
Okay, then anybody can take.
My answer is, I think we should ask Mr. Vinod to write that book, because he is the only textbook right now. He is the live textbook for us. There is no such textbook for me. I learn a lot, but that's what I'm talking about. There is a lot of lecture on the experiential learning, but that is overall aspect of the experiential learning, not limited to the simulation. So yes, my request to Mr. Vinod to write a book on this thing. Otherwise, we need to ask him to give a regular lecture to us on those things. Vinod sir, over to you on this question.
Yes, sir. I don't know where to begin, because the subject is pretty vast, as I explained very quickly. A simulation, a game, a case study are basically overlaps with each other. Mr. Jangra mentioned Lay some time back. Now, Elizabeth Lay had also defined a simulation as a representation of the past or of the future. that means within this small set of definitions, I must quickly say that a play that you see on the stage or a film that you saw, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc., is a simulation from which you can learn from. Cricket is not a simulation. It's a game. So there we have a little bit of a discomfortable with definitions over there. But globally, simulation and game overlap very quickly. So coming back to the question, is there a textbook available? No, there is no textbook available because it's a collection of disciplines, several disciplines coming together. If you go onto the website of SNG, which is Simulation and Gaming, which is a journal representing the International Simulation and Gaming Association, which is ISAGA, and the National Association of Simulation and Gaming Association, North American Simulation Gaming Association, that is NASAGA, you will find a very lengthy definition of what simulation game is, which extends to something like 80 words and about 8 or 10 lines of it as to what a simulation could be. It is also said to be what is called a gaming simulation, instead of to make things more complicated. So therefore, there's no textbook as such. But to come to a narrower question, the answer would be SNG or Simulation Gaming is a very good journal which has been there for probably 40, 45, 50 years. ISAGA, here I have a personal interest. I'm a member there. I've been there for the last 18 years or so. I'm also a reviewer for their SNG journal. It contains a vast collection of papers of very good quality, which the reader can, and I think it's probably available on the internet now. I think open articles are available. They offer a fantastic overview of anything and everything you can think of. I think that could be far better than a textbook. SNG, Simulation and Gaming, not game. And with a short form, probably you could Google it out and find out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
There is another question from participant Dr. Ratnakar Mishra. Can we include case study to experiential learning? I think both are different, but seeks your opinion on it. Anyone can answer this.
No, case study is actually a very good method of experiential learning. It's a wonderful tool. Most of the business schools use case studies to make the students understand the real life situation. Friends, we cannot bring the industry to the class and we cannot take the class to the industry, but we can bring the industry with a case study. That's why most of the top class business schools, the students are exposed to different types of case studies and different volumes of case studies. So they know almost everything in and about of the industry, of the company in particular, so that they can understand very well and they can actually go with a solution kind of approach when they attend the interviews. So case study is one of the very good examples of experiential learning. In fact, role plays, most of the case studies are discussed in the class in the form of role plays, in the form of drama, in the form of presentation, in the form of sometimes the simulation also, because they have to develop the scenario, providing alternatives as many number as possible. That is the advantage of case study. There is no single solution for anything. We need to provide as many alternatives as possible. So case study is one of the very good tools. My take on that. Yeah, I think Amy.
Yeah, case studies would be considered experiential learning. I mean, it's the variety. So again, that's why our standards don't say have case studies or just have experiential learning. There's a variety, and we recognize that even cases are becoming different, as you said. There's different ways to do case pedagogy. Graphic cases are becoming a thing. I mean, it is how you engage the learner, and cases for a large part, for a long period of time, we're the best way to engage the learner in that experiential process of not having all the information, competing with their team, their team members to create the right decision and these kinds of things. So there's cases that definitely are experiential learning, but I would expect in a business school curriculum that they are not the only opportunity for experiential learning. One of the things that Harvard Business School did when they first moved away from they're still doing cases, of course, but the sort of non-case based teaching that they did first was an experiential learning course. Right, it was they put students out into in a service learning environment and did some consulting and that kind of thing. So they kept it real, they kept it experiential. So I think that's something that it's not about how you categorize it or what it is. It's how you engage. It's how you innovate. It's how you keep the curriculum current and relevant.
Rajesh, another
Yes,
question.
A question from Firebird faculty to Mr. Ravi Jangra. When it comes to simulation, the teacher's pedagogy, should it be evaluated on a regular basis, or it can be fixed for every, for a lifetime?
Come again, please. Once come again.
When it comes to simulation-based teaching, is the pedagogy should be evaluated every time, or it can be fixed for the lifetime?
The pedagogy, when we're talking about evaluation, because every time you will get a different result, because it's all depend on the competitor. Right now, for example, if I'm competing with XYZ person, what kind of mindset he is, we don't know.
Yes.
So, for example, Rajesh, you are my competitor right now. You are in a very good mood and you are taking too much of risk and you are competing with me. So you are giving me a lot of good challenge. So that will be a different learning for me. But tomorrow, if you had a fight with your wife and you are not in a good mood, and you are depressed because you got married and you are competing with me, then it will be a different result altogether. So it's a human. That's why I said it very clearly that categorically that business is not a science. But at the same time, I have a thought process where when we talk about gaming or games, as Mr. Vinod said, that I say that business is a serious game now.
Yes.
Business is not only game. We used to say that, okay, business is just like a game we can play. No, it became a serious game, because if you are a company who is listed, then as Professor S.S Rao mentioned, I need to take care about the shareholder. I need to take care. If my company is not listed but limited, then I need to take care about the board, my governance clearances. So there is a lot of things which we need to work on that. So the evaluation, where the pedagogy, it is something which will be keep going on that. But as I mentioned, experiential learning, the experiential platform will be keep evolving. They will be keep evolving. They will not depend on that. So again, the same point, experiential learning will be there, but you need to change the experience every time, because there can be a different situation. Right now for me, I can give the same answer, but on the next time, the same problem will be having the different answer. And that is the problem. I will tell, I give you a real-time example for in the terms of faculties problem. When 2020, the March, the lockdown has started, for you guys, the first challenge was to deliver the education to your students. And you came up with a lot of solution. Zoom came in, Microsoft Team came in, a lot of things came in, a lot of tech startup, tech education tech up startup, they started, edutech started. And you get involved in that and all these things. But when the same situation came in 2021, you never started with the zero. You were already implemented something, but you face some different kind of feeling, like student is not getting involved or student is not taking seriously. Then you started from not zero, you started from 10 and you wanted to take it 20 or 30. So it's the same like a business. When you start a business, you have a different challenge. When you are running a business, every day you will be having a different challenge. So same with the pedagogy. Pedagogy thought process is experiential learning, but experience will need to keep changing every day. And that's why when we talk about this kind of things, I think Amy will be agree with me on that, because that's why after every year or 2 year or 3 year, even I'm sure AACSB must be doing that thing, and even AICT is going for evaluation of every academic institution after every certain time, because they want to check the continuous what you are doing new on that.
Sir, webinar is getting into different tone now. Questions are firing.
Yes, sir.
Rabija, you are inspiring. Everybody is really inspiring. Let's take on questions now. It is going up.
Yes.
Let's celebrate the questions.
Yes, sir. There's a question to Ms.Amy Ma'am from participant. How to develop the real-time case studies among the student community engagement?
I mean, what is a case study, right? So
It's real-time.
yeah, so I mean, your world of work is a real-time case study. Every time you tell a story, you're telling somebody some information and you're leaving some out, right? And you have to decide at the end what you're going to think about that person, right? So I think there are probably a lot of ways. In my study I had a teacher who basically wrote stories of her life. This was an accounting course, believe it or not, who wrote stories of her life that taught us managerial accounting, and it made her relatable to us. And so I really think that there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think students have, with technology, can participate in ways that haven't been done before. We have collaborative systems with, even Microsoft 365 suite and Google and all of these things, where students don't even have to be in the same room with each other to interact on something. These are all ways of developing cases that are real time and active. But I mean, cases have traditionally been static because of various reasons. They tell a story of the past, right? And you decide how that story turns out. But I think you can do a lot of different things with it.
Thank you, ma'am. And there is a question from participant Dr. Mukta. Is asking about is there any software or tools to be used for simulation in application? Available softwares, free softwares. Is asking about.
Dr. Raviji.
Dr. Ravi? Yeah.
Sorry, somebody was on the door. That is the little challenge for being working from home. So
Yes.
there is when we talk about a free tool, I think being as an academic body, if you are associated with some of the academic institution like MIT, Sloan or HBR, you may get some tools from there, but I don't have that process. I don't know that process properly because those are from the academic domain. I am not in that academic practices. And if you will get some tools which is available on the Google, if you'll go on that. So that is also very different because one thing that always hurts me that, and Mr. Vinod will be very agree with me on that, that simulation and e-learning is very exploited in the market. And people don't understand the real meaning of e-learning even. So simulation is far beyond than that, because I get many times a call, sir, we have a simulation software, we want your input, and when I go to watch that, it is just a graphic story. That is not a e-learning. E-learning, even for example, if I am reading something on a PDF file, that is also e-learning. But when we talk about learning, it should be compiled with the assessment and some results. So there is no free tools as such. As we mentioned, and as I still remember the first line of Professor S.S Rao, there is no free lunch in this world. Business is not for free. So nobody is going on within that. And if you will get some free tools, so it will be same like subscription model. They will give you some taste. And for getting on the real-time results, you need to go on the subscription model and paid model. So if something is free, which is very much news in from last 2 days since the Facebook stock market got down, if anything is free, then you are the product.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. There is a question to Professor Prasada Rao. One participant is asking, why can't be the project work of MBA be a case study?
Actually, the purpose of introducing project method in MBA is to develop a case study. It should be either publication or a patent or a case study. You know, recently, one of the themes has come forward.
Yes.
Patent, publish, prospect. PPP model. You know, first you patent, then publish, then prospect. Means you start something, set up maybe a startup and then continue your business. That is the idea. But unfortunately, because of the mushrooming on one side, the other side is the laziness of the students and quick returns, and people stop thinking. Man is to think, machine is to work. But how many people are thinking now? Completely depending on technology, completely depending on duplications, completely depending on redundancy. That should be avoided first. We should start thinking. We should always give, very, very creative and thoughtful, mindful, kind of sharings. Then people will appreciate. Why some research papers are published, in top class journals? Why not? Why they don't, even charge a single rupee? Of course, there are so many good publications. They charge heavily for publication, because who will give money for reviewers? Who will give money for printing? Who will give money for circulation or distribution? That's important. So paid or unpaid, that's a different case. Even paid journals also, the best journals are there. So we have to actually every problem is a challenge. Every challenge is a research issue. Every research, issue can be brought to classroom, so that so much learning, so many alternatives, so many ideas, so many, startups. That's why the National Education Policy 2020 is also giving a scope for this kind of innovations, startups, business ideas, incubation centers, and making everyone a lifelong learner.
Yes, Professor Rajesh, another question.
There is a question from Firebird student to Dr. Vinod Dabulkar. Will the simulation will be suitable for all business practices, or it is only for specific business practices?
Sir, you are mute.
Am I audible, sir?
Simulation game provides a service out of the stated objective. The simulation game is not a product in the tangible sense. I think that question needs to be clarified, because I'm not able to go beyond that.
The student is expecting, will this simulation will satisfy for all the business model to get it trained, or is it only limited for a specific business, for example, for mobile phones or a limited business prototypes?
No, you can have simulation games within a particular industry sector, or it could be something generic. You could have an unstated product and a broad market, or you could have a specific product, a named product like a cell phone or a water bottle, etc., etc. And you could have a game on that. Or you could have something very artificial and say that we will have two products, A and B. And the size of this and the price of that will be this and that, etc. You can have that. I think during those early days when we started the games, across those 5 years, I think we generated something like 10 or 11 different product scenarios, including water bottles, still liquors, etc., etc. So you have 3 or 4 different kinds of liquors, or 3 or 4 different kinds of bottled water. We had machine tools, for instance. We had steel rods. The steel rod scenario was virtually had to be done overnight, because we had to play at Tata Steel at Jamshedpur. So we thought we would bring something closer to them. We had motor cars as well, because we had to play. I had to play later on at Tata Motors. So if you want, you can have something very close to the industry of the player, or you could keep it apart. Both have advantages, both have extreme dangers.
There is a last question.
Just to add on, Rajesh, the student is asking about the learning part and the aspect, and which Mr. Vaneth said that absolutely right on those parts. But just to add on that, when we talk about simulation learning and all these things, first we need to identify what we are seeking out of that simulation practice. If we want to understand the particular business, yes, as Mr. Damlekar said, we can go with the particular industry-based simulation, because many companies want to get their participant or the student who are going to join them to train them to understand the processes of their company.
Okay.
So it is moreover simulation with the to understand their processes. So you can say that is the best way to learn the SOPs of that organization. But if your idea to understand the business or business acumen or strategy, doesn't matter what game you are playing. Ultimately, it's about business. For example, if I want to sell a product, I have to believe on that product and my company. It doesn't matter what kind of product I'm going to sell in the market. That is for my selling. For example, financial will remain financial in every organization. Balance sheet cannot be changed. The font size can be changed only, and the number will change based on the performance of the company. Nothing else will change. So it's all about learning what you want to learn. If you want to learn football, you need to play football. If you want to stay yourself fit, whatever game you are playing, it will stay you fit.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Rajesh, one more last question you should take. Yeah, yes. Last question.
Last question. There is a last question to Dr. P. Srinivas Rao, sir. There is a participant from Dr. K. Kalaiselvi. Job description varies company to company. If you are framing the curriculum based on JD, how we connect with all type of business into the curriculum? Shall we need to have generalized curriculum with a specialization or the domain area only? Please clarify, Dr. Srinivas.
Wonderful. It's very exciting, Professor. Yes. And we don't only keep our interns, the students, we call them learning associates. So we have 6 trimesters. Our student keep on rotating company to company. At least he'll see 6 companies. Yes. So what happened? Gross job description learn. Suppose talent acquisition, it will be same everywhere. Okay. If it is for medical lab, the talent acquisition is different. If it is for software, it is different. So depending on the cultural formats will be different, but the job will be same. The culture for hospitality industry, for a 5-star hotel, talent acquisition different. The culture is very disciplined, grooming part, those things will be there. For example, if you're looking for a, let's say, manufacturing unit, the job description will be hard. It's a hardcore environment because in a manufacturing unit, you don't expect to air condition and all these things. It's a hardcore and the job description will be different. The timings will be different. So our students are being tuned and toned in every industry possible in their vertical. Suppose my student is expecting, let's say in logistics, supply and chain and logistic management. I would like to go and find out those companies only. Then I would like to rotate in all areas because in Firebird, we are looking an all-round personality of a student, personally, socially, and professionally. We're not asking them to carry an MBA or a PhD degree and go for search for a job. From the day one, from our company, we are also sponsoring. We have 7-8 companies, factories and all, and also a group of companies around 20. And what we do, we put them into work, we pay them also. Our companies are paying them, and also our students get internship. Most of them, they get 50% of the fees reduction. And our fees also is very, very nominal because we are sponsored by the industry. So Firebird, it tunes to the industry. But in 2 years, we can't do whole life job. Possibly, we need more, polishing. That is what we create alumni. Again, alumnus who come back to us and the other senior alumni that teach them. So it is a continuous process of evolving for a greater endurance. But I like this. The question is very relevant. Even if any gaps are there, we would like to work on it and we'll fulfill those things also.
Sure. Thank you.
So are you closing? 3 more questions are visible. I don't want to disappoint anybody.
Yeah, sir. 2 more questions, sir.
Yes, please. We should.
The participant, Ms. Sasikala, is asking about how could we differentiate games and simulation? And how could we differentiate casework and group work?
For whom it is?
It is to, I think, Professor, Mr. Ravi Jangra. I can ask.
Sir, you're making him popular.
Thank you very much. So, first thing, as I mentioned, Mr. Vinod also mentioned that it's game is which is in the boundaries of certain things where you need to give me the result in particular time. So you are playing the game in that particular time. So games is something, as I mentioned in my presentation also, game is something which you can do and without any software, any simulations of part also. Simulation is something which you will get the dynamic result from the other participants also, which is little more automated. So as I mentioned you, for example, in a collaboration, I can create my own game. So like, for example, if you go to some kind of a fun-based activity. So for example, I ask you to create a maze to identify the challenge and all these. That is also a game. But ultimately, you need to identify what kind of learning outcomes you want from that. So that is, you can develop so many games. Like, for example, I can play a game for the students of a primary school or a 10th school on Excel, where they will put some result in the cell and I will get the result. That is also a game. I can make it in a tabular format or something like that. That is also a game. Simulation is where you will get uncertain unexpected results. So unexpected result, as it can be anything. So yes, but we need to make it on the best of the best practices of the industry. So that's what we talk about. Simulation is why simulation is required, because we want to make student understand the best practices and authentic also. It cannot be a vague idea. Like, for example, although I'm not against that process, but startups, give the discount and you will get the business, you will get the funding, and you will get all these things. That is a different game altogether in the business sense, but they cannot test or learn that thing on the simulation based. Like Paytm is doing very good in the market, but in the IPO game, I will say that as a game because it's a game. IPO game, they lost the money. Even I lost that money by 60% because I got the listing. But that is a different year. So game is very different. Game can be like we always say in a human behavior also, don't play game with me. But that is not a simulation. Simulation will be very different, where you will get a prescribed manner. It is a simulation is, again, I'm saying it's a virtual environment, but real-time scenarios and the best practices. There is a different practices, as Mr. Vinod was giving some of the example. So he worked with the Tata Motors also, and I'm sure he worked with the Maruti also in his extent. So Maruti processes may be different from the Tata Motors. That's why he said that it is a very dangerous domain, because if I will take a case study of Maruti into Tata Motors, they will be a different outcome discussion, because they will say that, no, we are not following this thing. We are following different. That can be different. So there is a different thing which we need to understand. So game is a first step towards simulation, and all comes under same thing, experiential learning. It's the same thing. There can be a difference. Is sale is different from marketing, or marketing is a sale? This is always question we always ask. It's a sale is a subset of marketing, or marketing is a subset of sales, which is all the management faculties will always get this question by the students. So it's the same thing.
Yes, Professor Rajesh, any other question? Yes.
Mr. Vinod want to add on that?
Questions are over.
Clarify and add to what Mr. Jangra said. He's clarified a lot of issues. A simulation is a replica, is a replication of something. Now that replication could be anything. One example I've heard is if you have a postage stamp size of the Empire State Building, which I think everybody knows is 113, 116 floors, that is a simulation. Because it's a definition. I mean, it confirms the definition that we have. If you have seen a play on a stage, if you have seen a recent film, like The Matrix or something, or whatever it is, that's a replica of something. May have happened, may not have happened, maybe imaginary, does not really matter. What about a case study? A case study could be real, or it could be totally imaginary. The ones that you read in Harvard Business Review are imaginary stories. And that's there is, I believe, what I heard about 10, 12 years back, there are some 7 different levels or 7 different ways in which you can write a case study between the totally artificial to the totally real. In the simulation space, we have had lots of argument as to what extent do we make something real, and to what extent do we hold back and fabricate what data we give to the participant. For example, I'll quote Mr. Jangra again. If you go and play a motor vehicle game in Maruti, you're going to have some problems. They'll say that this does not happen like that. It happens differently, etc. Because they'll contest the process that you offer. So if you're wise, I suggest you play the motor vehicle game in Tata Steel, and you play the steel game in Maruti. Because one thing is that they'll also have something new to learn. I mean, you may learn something only that which is new. If something is already known, if I already know that, that's not learning. If you can see behind me, the tagline below me, below that logo, it says discovery is learning. So learning has to be something new. And what about the game? Like I said earlier, the simulation, the game have several overlaps. If you Google out, you might find 3 different circles: a case study, a simulation, and a game, overlapping one over the other like a Venn diagram. So that is what it is, which means there is a slight difference between one and the other, but it's fine. I would like to look at a simulation as a narration or an enactment, as in a role play, with a definitive, predetermined ending. That means it will end like this only. Suppose you see a film on the World War II, it ends just like that. But suppose you have a game on the World War II, it won't end like that. Chess is a simulation game. A play or a film that you see is a simulation. It's not a game. Cricket is a game. Cricket is not a simulation game. Hockey, football, etc. are not simulation games. They do not simulate anything. To the best of my knowledge, chess is the only popular simulation game that we have, that we understand. And the simulation games that Mr. Jangra and others play, because they simulate something. The simulation, the replication, could be a process, or could be an industry, could be a role play is a simulation. But if the role play ends in the same old a predetermined ending, then it's a simulation. It's not a game. So what does a game have that's different from a simulation? In the game, you allow the participant to do something within the rules. And it's quite possible that in the World War II scenario, Hitler might win if it's a game. In the Indian context, Amy may not be the only person who may not understand what I'm talking about. If you have a Ramayana game, Ravan will win. Because a game ends with a possibility that you cannot predict. You look at cricket and tennis and so many other games that you have. You can't tell today whether Virat Kohli or Djokovic will win. It's unpredictable. But if a simulation is similar to a case study, it ends the same way as you've written it. It can't do otherwise.
Programmed.
It's programmed like that. The difference is only in the replication. Simulation says we are replicating this, either the history or something fascinating into the future. It can be a science fiction as well. During the early days, Chanakya, we played a game for the Navy, Indian Navy. We had about a dozen naval commodores and commanders, etc. So they played. So we had to do something. So I wrote a simulation. This was in the year 2001. So my simulation was for 2011, where the entire world, universe, had to create attack weapons to maybe offset an invasion by some aliens. So the word we used was tax. TACKS was the product. And we had 3 different kinds of products. We played that game for a day. It was a science fiction simulation written virtually within about maybe I think a week before they said, let's have a game. Now that did not represent something that happened in the past. So if we think simulation is something that it has to be historical, no, it's not true. It can be a fabrication. It can be a game because those who played the game could do whatever they wanted to do within the rules of the game. And you could not predict who could win and who could lose. The game is unpredictable. A simulation is not. A case study is not. A simulation game is one that has the features of both simulation and game, like chess. So I have a question to all of you. What does chess simulate? Come on, I thought that was an easy question.
It simulates the permutation. It simulates the
Amy has not spoken for a while. Amy, what does chess simulate?
I'm not super familiar with chess, but I do know that it is the moves are known, right? You
What is
know,
the
everything in chess, right? So what it simulates is your ability to kind of keep all of that together and analyze the steps that you take to get to that final result.
Jangra was about to, I think, on the hitting the right note.
Yeah, it's a permutation and combination of the numbers and the movements.
No. Who are playing? Who are the various
Team.
characters? Who are they?
Team, departmental teams.
Now you have the clue.
Departmental teams, sir.
Okay.
Frontline.
What are the small things on the board?
These are frontline workers. Frontline staff.
Yes.
Then in the middle level managers and fast movers, strategists, and
we are
CEOs.
talking about chess. We are talking only about chess here.
So I think Mr. Dr. Rao is taking this chess team as my team as one of like my. Yeah.
Come on, it's an easy question. 10 marks.
Reward.
For me, it's like permutation and combination of movements, and it's like how my competitor is going to work on that and how my resources I'm handling on those things.
Okay, let me simplify. Let me simplify.
Sir, I want to say that there is a frame. Within the frame only you have to move. It is not beyond the frame.
Oh,
there is a frame.
What does it represent?
Boundaries.
What does it represent? Okay, I'll come to the conclusion very quickly. Who are the people there? You have a king and a queen.
Yes, sir.
You have soldiers out there. You have a knight.
Yes.
Ministers.
What do? They fight each other. You are simulating a battle out there. Yes. And as in the good old days, the bishop moves at cross purposes. I'm using English here.
Yes, sir.
Moves diagonally across the board. As in the past, the bishop, etc., used to play. That means they used to play behind the scenes. And here you have the one on the horse, the knight, and the rook, etc., and the soldiers. The pawns, they are the soldiers. So you have a battle being replicated, simulated. And that's a game we have been playing for hundreds of years. I understand it was created in India many years back.
Yes, sir.
So a chess is a simulation game. Cricket is not. What does cricket simulate? It does not simulate anything. By the way, you can have simulations for terrorist activity, medical systems, crime. That means you can role play a crime that is happening or planned in advance, etc. And therefore, you can use it for predicting. If you reasonably know that a traffic circle or a traffic junction has typically accidents regularly, that means you must have data. You can predict it. If you can predict it mentally, you are playing a simulation, not a game. I hope I made the distinctions clear between the simulation.
Yes, sir. Absolutely clear, sir.
Yeah, we will have, sir. We will have this session, I think.
Just for 10 seconds more, like Mr. Vinod were talking about movies and all. So new generation will understand the movie, the best audience movie right now. There's Avengers, the Endgame. The solution of the Endgame was also through a simulation only. So I hope most of the young audience has watched that movie. So that was also some, as Mr. Vinod said, simulation. They just run the simulation and they said that they can do the time travel. So that is also simulated in certain parameters. They have seen the simulation on that. And yes, as Mr. Vinod again said, that game was different because when they entered in that simulated environment, the entire game was different. They changed the history again with the different outcomes.
If you see a Harry Potter game, it ends the same way. The Harry Potter film. It has been written out like that. This is what will happen. You can't change a simulation, the end of a simulation. But a game, I don't know, you and your friend can play some game outside, maybe like badminton, etc. At the beginning of the game, you cannot predict who will win. If you cannot predict it, it's a game.
That's why fixing has come.
Yes, sir. Now, Professor Rajesh,
Yes.
I think it's one of the most beautiful and very engaging webinar for last 3-4 months. What I've seen,
Yes.
we have almost, with high productivity and fertility, we have covered 2 hours 22 minutes, and without
Really?
boring. It's a big Hindi
Yes.
Bollywood movie,
Really,
and
exactly.
we enjoyed a lot. It was very good questions that all happened, and I would like to invite Vinodji to our campus at the earliest to sign an MOU with Mantis. So we have to learn a lot. We have to learn. Our faculty has to learn. Of course, we are with AIMA. So Vinodji, you're most welcome at any time at your convenience. And of course, I'm working with Amy Menon also to be a member there. And shortly, we are going to be members based on certain criteria. And on this platform, I would like to invite all senior academicians, professors, directors of all the business schools to please visit our campus. It's a personal invitation to all the members, both from industry and academia. We feel very happy. We have a luxurious executive quarters. You can stay with us. You can have a lot of entertainment. And also my motivating point is that Isha Foundation nearby. And I would like to take a small ride to Isha Foundation to all the members. This is an open, invitation. So I invite to Professor Rajesh to, end up with a formal word of thanks, right, on behalf of Firebird faculty, students, and
Yes.
trustees.
Yes, very good evening, expert speakers, participants, director. And it's my pleasure and privilege to give my vote of thanks for this international webinar organized by Firebird Institute of Research and Management in association with AIMA BizLab. And it went like almost like a brainstorming discussion, like thought-provoking sessions, like from each and every expert speaker. We really very much impressed. There are a lot of takeaways from every speakers, and I would like to like thank each and every individual speaker individually. Like first and foremost, I'd like to thank Dr. Raj Agrawal for his presence and his inspiring words in the beginning of the session. And I would like to thank Mr. Ravi Jangra. You have given the very nice speech and presentations about simulation, how it is helping for the teacher's pedagogy, and also how it is supporting for the critical thinking and evaluative thinking for the students. And heartful of thanks to special speaker, special guest Ms.Amy Menon. And your presentation and speech, the students would have got to know what is the importance of community engagement and professional engagement, how it can be helpful to develop the lateral curriculum about business model, and it creates really a positive impact on the society through your speech. And I would like to thank Mr. Prasada Rao. So really, sir, your insight was totally different, and you given a lot of importance to how the business can create a value and how it can integrate the functional areas and the wealth creation, value creation, everything you connected. It was really a takeaway for the students and faculties. And my final thanks to the new exclusive professor joined at the dynamically, Mr. Vinod Damalkar. So your insight and analysis was really awesome. You nicely connected the constraints, how it can be differentiated with the gaming and with the simulation. So it was almost like a case study analysis. We got a very good learning from your speech and your information. And we are really fortunate, and students and faculties and all the participants. This brainstorming session would have given a lot of analysis, and it inspires us to make some kind of research in business simulation through experiential learning. Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Thank you very much from Firebird.
Yeah, thank you all, and it's really awesome. And namaskar.
Final thanks. Excuse me, so sorry.
Sorry. What is that?
Final thanks to our director, Shrinivas Rao sir, who has organized this entire international webinar things from the beginning to the end, from the designing and in the integration, organizing, connecting with the people, faculty, students. Really, sir, and we need your such kind of support in future for every international webinar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.